Stand by SOT1.
Standing.
10 seconds. Ready, rollin'. Ready, SOT1.
Ready.
In 4, 3, 2, 1. Roll in.
From legendary Uncle Studios in beautiful Southern California, welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters, the central location for you employees, you employers, and of course, we haven't forgotten about you damn independent contractors. And now, here's this week's edition of Work Comp Matters.
It is July 30th, 12 noon. Welcome to another edition of Work Comp Matters. We are brought to you by workcompcentral.com. If you want the number one location for workers' compensation in both California and around the United States, check out workcompcentral.com. They've got a free 7-day offer. And if you want to pick up their services, I have them. You should too. It's only $1 a day. Work Comp Matters is also brought to you by A1 Law, number one computer management system, 818-357-4120 for your no strings attached money back guarantee. Also $1 a day, A1 Law. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Steve Appell. I'm joined by the madman across the water, John Scalia, as well as the chief of staff, the doctor, but he's not a medical doctor, Mike Zima. Well, we are full of news today, and a lot of this news is not California current events, but that's okay. Fortunately, it's not Donald Trump sneaking into my podcast, so I'm very happy about that. First and foremost, well, no, actually, you know what? I'm going to start with the least and work up to the best. NASA, Perseverance, rover, has lifted off this morning from Mars. It will be there in about 7 months. They are going to land this rover, Perseverance, which is about the size of an SUV or something like that. And this rover has something, from what I hear, that no other spaceship has. And that is a friggin' helicopter, okay? Supposedly, this rover is going to be able to fly over the Mars surface. And eventually, I don't know if this rover itself or if they're going to have to send something else to Mars to get it. But this rover, presumably, is going to be taking part in bringing back Mars rocks to the Earth. I love NASA. I love astronomy. I'm certainly not an expert. It's a casual hobby for me. But no other planet besides Earth that humanoids have visited have had a helicopter on it. And I just find it fascinating. NASA Perseverance launched this morning. It's going to be on Mars January or February of next year, presumably with a helicopter. Next, Herman Cain, dead at 74 years old. You may or may not remember, CEO, owner of the Godfather pizza chain, ran for president, withdrew, potentially would have been, could have been, was being considered for Donald Trump's chairman of the Federal Reserve, died of COVID-19 at the age of 74. And let's see, second to most important, had an earthquake today, centered in San Fernando, which of course is in beautiful Southern California. I live in Woodland Hills. My office is in Van Nuys. That's pretty damn close, about 15 miles to the city of San Fernando, 4.2. But I'll tell you, and Mike and I, John, were talking before the show. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I was 11 years old in 1971 at the time of the Sylmar earthquake. At the time of the Northridge earthquake, I was 34, and those two were up above 7. And these little 4.2s, they're nothing. We're used to them. Yeah, it woke me up at 4. It woke me up at 4:30 in the morning. Went back to sleep, had an aftershock around 7 or 7:30. That woke me up. But hey, it's all part of living in beautiful Southern California. And of course, last but not least, and I'll close my rant, is on the funeral of John Lewis. As I'm podcasting live right now, the automobile motorcade is heading towards his final resting spot. I have nothing but good things to say about John Lewis. For those of you that don't know, he participated in the civil rights movement. He got the crap kicked out of him, busted up skull for being a peaceful protester, was influential congressman for 34 years. 3 presidents showed up today. Bush was there. Barack Obama was there. Clinton was there. Many members of the House, members of the Senate, I think, as well. Very well respected man. And from a personal point, from a human point, unfortunately, the man died. But this is the first. I watched part of the funeral on TV this morning, and I feel so bad inside that it takes something like a birthday or a birth, or in this case, a death, to bring the country together and to contribute to me feeling like we truly are all in this together. Because ever since Donald Trump became president, I don't see all of us in this, in anything together. I see the nation more polarized than in my entire 60 years. And in all seriousness, I got the warm, fuzzy feeling from watching the funeral. Men, women, old, young, Republicans and Democrats all agreeing that this man made a difference, and all of us can take something good from him and apply it to our lives, to better our lives, to better the nation and the human condition. John Scalia, you're out there in Munich, Germany. You must have heard the name John Lewis. You must have read about John Lewis. I'm hopeful that you have taken something positive from John Lewis. What's your take?
Oh, I've taken plenty positive from John Lewis. I think, unfortunately, when you went down the list of presidents who were there, you omitted the elephant who was not in the room, and that was Donald Trump, who once again displayed his usual classlessness by not showing up. But John Lewis himself was an icon of the civil rights movement, which in America has been essentially nonviolent. It has basically tried to argue for justice for oppressed minorities. And obviously, today it's making a lot more headway in a lot of ways than it's made in the last 50 years. And obviously, John Lewis was referred to as the conscience of the Congress. That was his nickname. It's probably another reason that Trump didn't show up. And everybody respected him. He was the guy who gave a speech with Martin Luther King when John Lewis was 23 years old. He was one of the speakers at that rally with Martin Luther King Jr. And so, yeah, he's a great American. He's getting his due, and that's a good thing.
John, I am just going to agree with you by saying this, and it's probably going to shock you because, I'm just going to go out and say it. Donald Trump is an a-hole for not showing respect to John Lewis. Mike, you're the doctor. You're my chief of staff. You keep me out of trouble at least 90% of the time. What's your take on John Lewis? And do you agree with me that Donald Trump is an a-hole for not showing respect to John Lewis?
Well, I basically agree with that, but I don't think Trump was invited. That's one thing. The thing about, and I'd like to comment on each of these topics, but as far as John Lewis goes, the thing that just blew me away about him was his huevos, was his courage. He's on the Edmund Pettus Bridge walking over, and he's looking at all those stormtroopers, essentially, and he knows
he's going to get the crap kicked out of him. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Right. So it's very Gandhi-like. Very respectful of John Lewis. Now, as far as the mission to Mars goes, I just want the record to reflect the fact that its battery, if you will, is what they call a radioisotope thermoelectric generator that contains a piece of platinum. It's essentially an atomic battery, and it's going to last 15 years. And the placement of the probe is going to be at the Jezero crater, which is next to what appears to be a lake bed. So, of course, they're going to be looking for life. Now, as far as Herman Cain goes, the word is he got the coronavirus at Trump's Tulsa rally about a month ago, but that can't be confirmed. And as far as the earthquake, the terremoto, the tremblement de terre, it was just a little slight kick in the pants. But I am somewhat of an amateur geologist, and in my view, from my experience, the further away from the earthquake you are, the rollier it gets, okay? This one was not rolly at all. This one was like, hey, idiot, get up, bam, 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 like that. So we've had a very interesting morning in Southern California. Thank you.
You are welcome. And speaking one more time about beautiful Southern California, Los Angeles City Councilman Paul Koretz called yesterday for the city to issue financial penalties for those who fail to wear masks in public, starting with $100 for the first violation. Koretz, who represents a district stretching from the west side north to Encino, wants the council to impose a series of escalating fines for those who fail to comply with Mayor Eric Garcetti's 3-month-old emergency mask order. And for the record, Garcetti has not endorsed this by the councilman. And I wanted to comment on this really briefly, and then we'll go to the break. And then John and Mike can do some news back and forth. I don't see a huge risk of not wearing a mask in public if you are not within 6 to 10 feet of another person. I've said before, I carry a mask with me wherever I go in public. If someone comes within 6 to 10 feet of me and they're going to be there for longer than, say, 5 seconds, maybe even 2 seconds, I put my mask on. But I really don't believe that there is a high risk, or I think it's a very low risk. Like if you're on a hiking trail and you're passing someone by and they're not sneezing and they're not coughing. But I haven't been in a group of more than, say, 6 people for an extended period of time in public, more than like once or twice in the past 4 months. I just do my best to avoid that type of situation. You know, I understand kids in their teens and their 20s, they want to go to the beach and they want to have hundreds, if not thousands of people there. They want to go to COVID parties, which is friggin' stupid. And they want to go to a bar and sit within 6 feet within mask. I don't put myself in that situation. I completely understand about wearing a mask if you're going to be inside of 6 feet of somebody else. But if there's no one else around, I don't see a need to wear that mask. Before we go to the break in the news, John Scalia, I suspect you're going to disagree with what I said, but what do you think?
Well,
Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
I mean, when you go grocery shopping, I don't see how you can avoid getting within 6 feet of somebody. I mean,
Okay,
we're supposed to wear the mask. What?
Grocery shopping, in my mind, is not in public. That is a private business. I always wear a mask because they won't let me inside the friggin' door without wearing a mask. I'm talking about being on the sidewalk.
Oh, okay. Well, we don't have to. We don't have to wear a mask on the sidewalk here. We only have to wear a mask when we're on the public transit or indoors. In like a retail store or grocery store. But when we're on the street, we don't have to wear a mask. They do ask us to wear a mask when we're waiting at the bus stop because that's a small area where people gather. But other than that, outdoors, you can, we're mask free.
Right. Okay. And my point being is if, fortunately I'm well to do enough to have my own car, maybe if I was in San Francisco or New York, even if I had a car, I would take public transportation. But if I was at a bus stop, I would be carrying a mask. And if I was the only one at the bus stop, I would not wear it. But if another person...
When there's nobody else at the bus stop, I don't put my mask on either. I mean, that's kind of silly. Yeah.
Okay, so in a sense, you kind of agree with me. When I say out in public, I'm talking like on the sidewalk. I do agree. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, okay, very good. Mike Zyma, you might be a little bit more conservative than me and John. What do you think?
Well, I do. Lately, I've been essentially climbing mountains on trails, but I don't wear a mask there. But some of the people we pass, and there's not a lot of people, some of the people we pass are wearing masks. And I'm making these hikes with my brother, and a few people look at us like they want to kill us. So because we're not wearing masks. So I think like this weekend when we take that trek, we're going to be wearing the mask. As far as the grocery store, always with the grocery store, I got the mask on. As far as home, I don't generally wear the mask unless my pregnant daughter is visiting. So I'm a mask guy, but when I'm walking and exercising, so long as I'm not within 6 feet of somebody, or if I'm just passing someone, I don't wear the mask.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you're not straining yourself, because there was a gym, I forget where it was, somewhere in California, I think, where the guy passed out because he was wearing a mask while he was lifting weights. And so they rescinded the rule. But anybody, like I run a lot, obviously, and anybody who exercises can tell you that a mask restricts the intake of oxygen. Now, I'm not talking
John,
about what?
Yeah, well, that's interesting because as far as I know, the protocol for the NFL is that when the player gets off the field, they put a mask on. Okay. Now, when you come off the field, when you're playing football, you're panting like a crazy person. So it is going to restrict the flow of oxygen. I guess there's going to be a lot of NFL players who are passing out or something.
They might. I mean, I don't see it. I mean, anybody, like I say, anyone who exercises at all strenuously knows that putting a mask reduces the flow, reduces the intake of oxygen. That's just common sense. You don't have to be a physicist to figure that out. You put a filter in front of your nose, it does what filters do.
Right.
That sounds perfectly justified to me. My name's Steve Appell. You're dialed into Work Comp Matters. We're brought to you by the workcompcentral.com as well as A1 Law. I'm going to go to John Scalia, the madman across the water, for the first story of the day. Go ahead, John.
Okay, Medi-Cal's new head wants to tackle disparities and racism. Will Lightbourne looked at the statistics behind California's coronavirus cases, the disparities were blindingly clear. Blacks and Latinos are dying at higher rates than most other Californians. As of Monday, Latinos account for 45.6% of coronavirus deaths in a state where they make up 38.9% of the population, according to data collected by the Department of Public Health. Blacks account for 8.5% of the deaths, but make up 6% of the population. Lightborn, who led California's Department of Social Services under Governor Jerry Brown, describes this pandemic as one that rips the bandage off a healthcare system long riddled with inequity. So when Governor Gavin Newsom asked Lightborn, 70, to come out of retirement in June to lead the Department of Healthcare Services, he said he couldn't say no. He has committed his whole professional life to public service, said Mike Harold, Director of Public Advocacy at the Western Center on Law and Poverty. He's not joking when he talks about the importance of these issues and the important role the government plays in addressing societal inequities. As a personal aside, I just want to say that, one of my best friend in California was Governor Jerry Brown's right-hand man. And, I read this press release and I said, my God, this is like a puff piece. So I emailed Dan and I said, can you find out for me, if what they're saying about this guy is true? I mean, is he that good? And the answer came back, without a doubt, yes. Dan told me that Jerry said that Will Lightborn was one of the best hires he ever made in the entire time he was governor. And then when Lightborn, at the end of Brown's tenure, he actually wrote Lightborn a personal letter commending him on the job he had done. So it looks like that Department of California is, at least for now, in very good hands.
And thank you very much. With the next news story, Mike, go ahead. And Mike, when you finish your news story, just say John, and John, go for it, and vice versa. Go ahead.
Americans are avoiding hospitals and clinics by the millions, even when they shouldn't, and many experts expect a jump in preventable disease diagnoses after the COVID crisis eases. Paradoxically, the pandemic may have been good for some heart patients, however. Well, I can't figure out why. John?
I'm sorry. I wasn't really paying attention. I was reading the next article.
Go, that's good.
Okay, John, it's that when he says John, that's time for the next story, sir.
Yeah, SF Schools Plan, 4 hours of work for kids per day. Except I think I clicked on the wrong article. Hang on a minute. I was looking for an article that's talking about the plans for the universities in the Bay Area to go back to school. And most of them are a hybrid of online instruction plus in-person instruction. And in fact, almost all of the ones that they were talking about, and they were talking about Stanford, UC Berkeley, Santa Clara University, University of San Francisco, and St. Mary's College, which are the main universities in the Bay Area. What they're saying is that there's going to be online and in-person. The in-person people on campus, however, are going to be in a very different situation. They're going to be, all of them and all the campuses are going to be in single rooms. They said that they will generously keep charging them for the double room rate, but they will all be in single rooms. So they're all taking a lot of precautions, and the experience for the college students is going to be severely different than it was for me when I was in college and for everybody else on this show. I don't know if you guys lived on campus, but I did. And this is certainly a great alteration of life for 18-year-old college students, thanks to COVID.
All right, well, cool. Well, I'm going to read two stories that are about Latinos and Blacks. Latino and Black tenants in California are much more worried than their white and Asian counterparts about paying their rent in the economic downturn caused by the coronavirus pandemic, according to data taken by the U.S. Census Bureau. The fears reflect the disproportionate economic impact of the pandemic, Latino and Black communities. The Black and Latino unemployment rates have been significantly higher than the white unemployment rates, and those groups have also had higher COVID-19 infections. Well, I'm pretty confident that the second half of this story is true, that Black and Latino unemployment rates are higher than white unemployment rates. Oh, what is that? I think that was old MA. That's whatever. That was cool.
Was that a siren?
No, that was a song.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Some kind of German siren.
No.
That is a song from the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. And then the next story, Latino and African Americans are more likely to view pollution as a serious health threat than other groups, according to a new statewide study by the Public Policy Institute of California. African Americans and Latinos are more likely than others to say that air and water pollution in their part of California are very serious health threats to themselves and their families, said Mark Baldessari, president and CEO of the Public Policy Institute of California. And by the way, Mike Zima, that song was The Lion Sleeps Tonight. I know that song.
Yes, it
Mike,
is.
Is that Unit 4+2? Unit 4+2, I think, is the name of that group.
I don't know the name of the group, but the song is The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Well, that's going to bring us to the end of the show. Dr. Mike, any burning desires?
Nope. Everybody hang in there.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's going to read two stories about Latinos and blacks, it might as well be a white Jew. John Scalia, any burning desires?
Yeah, well, happy birthday to Mike. And I
Thank
just
you.
want to say,
Oh yeah! Oh my God! I forgot. Happy birthday, Mike! I'm sorry I forgot.
Thank you. Thank you. And John is 74. I'm 66, and Steve, you're 60. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, John, you were saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, a couple days ago, Attorney General, William Candy Bar, the guy who can't pass up a candy store without eating the store, testified in front of Congress. And he said an amazing thing. He said, I don't believe there's any systemic racism in police departments. This is the Attorney General of the United States. Admittedly, he's a joke, but he still is the Attorney General of the United States, allegedly the chief law enforcement. Even after members of Congress presented evidence to him that police departments had systemic racism, he still refused to believe it. I suppose he also refuses to believe that he is morbidly obese and an eyesore to the camera. But the reality is, it's incredible that we have a guy who is so unqualified, so stupid, and so blind to facts as the Attorney General of the United States.
Actually, I thought he was Elton John's long-lost brother, but that's... If you ever get a chance, put a picture of William Barr and Elton John together presently. They look quite similar. Well, I want to thank the madman across the water, John Scalia. I want to thank my chief of staff, Dr. Mike Zima, Scott Walton of Uncle's Studios, all the good people back at the WorkCompcentral and A1 Law. My name is Steve Appell, podcasting from the iPhone today. And we will see you, or we will talk to you, or you can tune us in again tomorrow at noon for another edition of Work Comp Matters.